It's going to be a great week, though.
Well, I don't know if you saw the Summer League schedule just dropped.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Oh, when did we play?
Matchup number 1, Denver, Minnesota.
Damn it. Oh, wait, that's number one. Is it the noon o'clock game? Is it the 12
I don't
o'clock
know.
game?
That's the first Nuggets game.
Okay. I just don't want to be the 12 o'clock one because then it's just so
July
hard.
8th, 7 p.m.
Oh, that's the
Nuggets,
prime time slot.
Timberwolves,
Let's go, baby. I can't wait. What is
Let's
up,
go.
everybody? Welcome into the DNVR Nuggets Podcast.
Let's go.
Draft week edition, guys. Draft week edition. We are here the week of the NBA draft. One of the best weeks in all of the NBA calendar. Very excited for that. We're presented as always by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Use promo code DNVR whenever you sign up. I don't know if you guys can sense it through the screen, through your browser, through your phone, or I don't know if you know this, maybe your television if you're using a smart device.
Nice.
We have energy, man. I feel like we're all vibes on 100. Is it because it's almost the solstice? Maybe. Maybe that's what it is.
Could be.
I know how excited you guys get for that. Is it because it's draft week? Is it because we just had a great day at Ball Arena, a great morning we'll get to? I don't know. All of the above, probably. But to join in that celebration, I've got a man who wears his favorite shorts every day, just like Jarrell Arthur. It's Brendan Vogt. Never tell me a secret if you don't expect me to bring it up.
I made a commitment to wear these on the show every day. And I'm sticking to it. I went camping in these shorts this weekend.
Hell yeah.
Haven't washed them yet.
How was that, by the way?
Awesome, dude.
Camping the best.
Colorado camping. I had my hammock this time. Had my dog. Had everything I needed. I was chilling, man. I was chilling.
That's why you're glowing, man. I like it.
Feel great.
Why are you glowing, Harrison?
I'm glowing because my Big Board 1.0 just dropped.
Woo!
Check it out on Twitter. You can find it. 1 through 10, best realistic fits for the Nuggets. We saw number 3 on my big board.
Wow.
MarJon Beauchamp
Whoa.
workout for the Nuggets today.
What a tease.
We'll see if he can keep that standing.
Yeah.
Keep that number 3 spot.
Yeah, I love it, man. Big board's out. We're kind of sharing ours. My big board, I would say, coming together.
Oh, okay.
I'm serious about that, though. Like, this is, you kind of cast a wide net. You look at a bunch of guys. For me, I filtered out a lot that I'm not saying, look, I filtered out Zeke Naji. End up liking him.
Right.
Like,
Right.
There's guys that can get filtered out. You go further into them, you start seeing them at the NBA level, you can reanalyze them.
Yeah.
But I've got it filtered out to the guys I kind of like. We've been talking about them on our show. Later on in the week, as we get closer and closer to the draft, I know we'll all start to share those. Who is our number 1 target, number 2, and so on and so forth. But Wind has his preliminary one out. How much do you expect that to change between now and Thursday, Wind?
I could see some movement. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some movement. I mean, Beauchamp today looked the part for like a Nuggets potential draft pick. But it's interesting. I see in the comments there the Dalen Terry chatter. Dalen Terry, we were not high on him when we did the scouting report a few weeks back.
You know why, though? Go ahead.
It didn't seem like a lot of people were that high on him, but he's been one of the fastest risers, and he's risen up to number 4 on my board.
So here's what's funny about the draft. When you go through, like, whoever you look at first is going to be your least, you're going to be the worst, you're most off on him because it's your first one, and you don't want to be like, oh, that's my favorite guy or that's my least favorite guy. You don't know what to compare him to until you start getting into him. And there was a lot of those guys that we looked at real early that I was like, I don't know. And then you start to compare them. You're like, oh, wait, the first guy we talked about was way better than the next 5.
That's right, yeah.
We've talked about this. The crop of prospects that we're talking about, it feels like it's not at the same level that it's been in years past. At kind of that 20 to 25 range where Nuggets have been picking. I'm not as excited about as many guys this year as I've been in years past, but I'm starting to talk myself into a bunch of players in that range.
Talk yourself into is a good way of putting it. Today, we're going to get to Wendell Moore in the second segment. In the third segment, we're going to talk about Christian Braun. Here in a little bit, we're going to talk about Malika Brandon, which is kind of an interesting guy. I might be saying his name wrong. But first, we already talked about Beauchamp. MarJon Beauchamp. But he was in to work out for the Nuggets today. It sounds like, and this is not uncommon, it sounds like this was not a workout that was on the schedule until recently, and he was added. He brought that up today in his media availability. When you go to the arena for these, we don't get a whole lot. We don't get to watch them, although I actually got there early enough. They closed the doors. I got there early enough that the doors were still open. Got to sit around and watch for a few minutes. I was even asking some of it was funny. I was asking some of the coaches that are there, like, are these doors open? Like, is it cool if I watch? And they're like, yeah, I think so. Like, they didn't even know the answer. So I'm like, all right. So I sat there for 5 minutes, got a little insight there. But anyway, but what you can get is a sense of a guy's personality. I feel like that's the number one. Like, we don't ever talk to these guys at the college level, so you get a sense of their personality. You get to size them up. I know that's weird, but everybody is height. You want to see, like, what kind of build do they have? How tall actually are they? And then the last thing I would say, and this is the hardest one, but you get a sense for how they move, how they shoot. They'll do a little dunk thing some of the time. So you just kind of get a sense of like what type of athlete or shooter or ball handler is this guy. To me, Beauchamp is a rare example of a guy that today, seeing him, all three of those stood out to me in impressive ways. He was way taller than I expected him to look, way more athletic. His shot mechanically looked absolutely gorgeous. And getting a sense of his personality, we'll talk about it here in a second, but A+. Like his interview today, for whatever it's worth, maybe nothing, I thought was absolutely fantastic. Vogt, do you feel the same way walking out of Ball Arena?
Yeah, absolutely. At the very, very least, he had a good understanding of what maybe Nuggets fans and media might want to hear. And even that alone, I think, shows some self-awareness and savvy. But this, in the interview aspect, I was definitely impressed. I always want to look for a touch of self-awareness for me. And this was a guy, when asked to compare himself to other players, we heard like Herb Jones come up.
Love that.
No, two players.
Herb Jones, and I'm blanking on the second.
Mikal Bridges.
That's right. So these are, that's hardly a Kobe Bryant.
By the way, it wasn't a personal player comp. It was an aspirational comp. Meaning that's who I want to be.
Precisely. So you hear that and you go, this is a guy who, at least right now in this gym, knows we want to hear that he's ready to be a ready-made role player. Physically, he just looks 100% the part, just an NBA body. He just looks like a basketball player. And then the big
in a way that was a little surprising, no? Like,
absolutely.
You see some of the reports 6'5" or whatever.
Sure.
I would say he looked, to me, taller than Will Barton.
Yeah, and it's hard to see without them standing next to each other, obviously, but he looked like a tall 6'6".
But it's not hard for me because I'm Will Barton's height.
That's a good point.
Well, he is taller than Will Barton.
Six
6'6.5" in shoes. Will Barton's 6'5.5". I'd say 6'6".
Yeah, so impressive. And then lastly, the theme of the day was that jump shot, and a revamped jump shot, he told us. Something that he's been trying not just to improve, but to change the mechanics. It looked smooth today. And then Michael Malone, who was in attendance, had similar things to say.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the jump shot is big, and that's definitely one thing that you can get a read on from the portion of these workouts that we do get to see. We probably saw MarJon Beauchamp shoot 43 pointers in 10 minutes we watched him shoot. And I thought his jumper looked good. Like, that's one thing you're always wondering about. Is it going to look the same as it did on film? Like, does it match the eye test? Like, it definitely did.
Right.
I thought his jumper looked good. You're right. He said he made some tweaks to it. Michael Malone apparently told Beauchamp that his jump shot looked beautiful, and he was really impressed with what he saw, and that his jumper now looks a lot different than it looked on the film during his G League season. So I was impressed with that. And then, the interview portion was good as well. He was talking about just his fit with this team and the players, and he called himself the best transition player in the draft, which I loved. And he also called himself one of the best cutters. So cutting, defense, transition, I feel like that's kind of where he wants his niche to be, three-point shooting too, because he's probably going to get drafted late first round to a good team.
So you were talking about especially aspirational, like who do you want to be and how important that is. Do you know who my all-time worst one is? You probably do.
Was it Daznan Musa?
Zana Musa.
Zana Musa.
Yeah, of course. Everybody
Kobe.
does
He was
that,
Kobe Bryant, right, or whatever. Like, it's like, come on, man. So there is that. And then all-time best, I think, was I mentioned Justin Patton, who wanted to be Jokic. So both of those guys.
It's also a little. It's also a little alarming as well.
I say that to say that oftentimes these things don't mean anything, and when they feel like they do, you have to always remember, like, at best, this means the smallest amount. But nonetheless, it was impressive. I just thought, speaking to him today, he really did seem like a guy that wants the right things and wants to become the right type of player. And on top of that, just personality-wise, I thought he was great as well. Like, he's the type of guy, from a selfish standpoint, I'd enjoy covering this guy. He was thoughtful. He was insightful. He's a guy I want to root for now.
If the Nuggets took him, I think I could see all of us talking ourselves into him, if we're not there already. So, look, like you said, you can only take so much, but these little glimpses, they can either go in one direction or the other. And you'd rather hear the good stuff than the bad stuff. And we saw some good today from him.
And it's funny when we talk about the jumper, because this is the actual more tangible thing. And again, it has to translate to make. So, and this is new. But I walked in with Ryan Blackburn, our buddy now over at Mile High Sports, and I watched him shoot for maybe 20 seconds, maybe less than that. And I told Ryan, I was like, I like his jumper. And Ryan kind of laughs. And I go, no, I'm serious. I was like, one of the things I wanted to do coming in here was watch him shoot. And after just 4 or 5 shots, you could tell that there was some work that had been gone into revamping it. It looked extremely fluid to me, extremely smooth. And so it's just one thing where I feel like a la a Herb Jones, where you watch him and go, well, the numbers say this, then he gets into his rookie season and you see there's a leap. I'm not saying he's going to make that kind of leap, but it's a guy that I feel more likely that a leap can happen than some of these other guys where you watch him shoot and you're like, oh, man.
Well, the thing about a jump shot for a guy entering the NBA is it's relatively easy to fix if it's not broken.
Right.
Like, you can just get better at shooting three-pointers fairly easily.
But he had
NBA.
I would say his shot was broken, though. Like, if you watch some of the scouting stuff, it's not a pretty shot. It did look like it needed tweaks.
But it's not broken like,
Michael Kidd-Gilchrist?
Yeah, like that. He could shoot threes in an empty gym for 24 hours a day and still not be a good shooter. But, Beauchamp's shot was at a point, and definitely is at a point now, where he's going to work and work and work at it, and I'm pretty confident he's going to be a very good shooter.
The form is only half of it, because there is a thing about, like, hey, he shoots, his elbows out too much, or he has too flat, or whatever it is. But the part that I'm talking about specifically with him, his shot clearly looked like he'd work on some of his form. It looks prettier. But more than anything, it's fluidity.
Yes.
You watch, it's body control on a shot. Like, you watch Draymond shoot, and it's very, like, down, up, out. Like, it's just, it doesn't feel fluid at all. And you're kind of like, that's a guy that maybe he makes, maybe he misses, but he's not ever going to have the fluid body control. Beauchamp today was a guy that I looked at, and I just thought there was a fluidity to everything from the catch to the bend to the release that I was like, you know what? I just think that guy has coordination, body control coordination to be okay.
You can see the coordination and the fluidity on his film, too. He's just an athlete. Like, he moves like an NBA player. He's fluid. He's got quick hips. He moves in the way that NBA stars do.
It's also a guy who put himself in a position to be potentially a first-round draft pick, G League guy with eyes on him, and said, no, I got to get back in the gym and redo this shot.
Right.
This is not good enough. Even before I get to the pro level and their personnel get a look at me, I can see that this isn't good enough. And then he gets himself in a late workout in front of a team that maybe could take him, and he shows them, like, hey, this is something I'm putting work into.
So I liked him a lot. And then finally on the interview part, he talked about really likes Jokic's game, which you always love. I mean,
Smart
I feel like
comment.
if you're an agent, you always just talk about the best player and just mention him. Like, if I was an agent, every city you go to, you'd be like, all right, we're in Chicago. Talk about how much you love Zach LaVine. Just mention him in passing or whatever. But he liked Jokic and kind of broke down his game a little bit about how he would play off of him, which I thought was cool. And then mentioned, obviously, he knows Michael Porter. Now, he lit up when I was asked about Michael Porter. And he lit up basically saying, like, I don't remember his exact phrasing of it, but something of like, no, you guys don't understand. This dude's special. Like, when he gets healthy, I've never seen anything like it. When he gets healthy, like, just watch.
By the way,
he's such a believer in Michael Porter, who was his old high school teammate.
After I watched Michael Porter Jr. play 3-on-3 for the first time, that's exactly how I was talking about him, too.
Talk about fluidity of body control.
Oh, my God.
He's like the number one guy that you watch shoot, and you're like, that's probably going in every time he takes it. And then lastly, he has one other friend on the person on the team that he knows, not Monte. Shocker.
I would have bet my life that he was going to say Monte to that question.
I did too. I was like, Monte reached out to me or whatever. I knew this. It was not Monte Morris.
Take
it
a guess,
was
though.
Busy.
Oh,
Busy. Not even Bones. It was Busy.
Busy.
And he talked about how he loves the music, and he
listened to his new album.
Listening to the new album. Bumping. Of course I have.
Yeah, me too.
Of course. Dude, I'm telling you, and I don't mean this as like to buttering it up. Like, when Will's thing came out, my comment was better than I expected. Like, I had an expectation, whatever. Bones?
Oh, you're bumping a little bit.
I'm kind of like, all right.
He's got the bird watcher bumping.
I got a little,
I like that.
Going, so
that's just what he was hoping for.
Anyway, so Beauchamp already has a little bit of familiarity. So I don't know if he moves up or down on my personal big board, but it definitely didn't hurt. Like, he's a guy that made me more comfortable if the Nuggets were to take.
Yeah.
Before we get out of this first segment, though, let's go quickly. We have 3 prospects today. The first one is probably the least likely. That's why we kind of wanted to rush through him. Out of Ohio State, Malika Brandon. What do you want to tell us about him?
Well, we're talking about him because I've got the mock draft tracker on the DNVR.com, and Kevin O'Connor at The Ringer just mocked Branham to Denver.
Really?
This was updated on the 17th, so late last week. It's as low as I've seen Branham going. Malika Branham's a 6'5", 2-guard wing out of Ohio State, freshman, 19 years old. He just had like a really good season there. he was one of, and we'll talk about this with Wendell Moore, he was one of 20 college players last year to be in the 50, 40, 80 club.
Wow.
50% from the field, 40% from three, 80% from the line. But he's a one-and-done 19-year-old two-guard. Like, could he be the Nuggets two-guard of the future? He kind of projects like that. 6'5", he's got good length, 6'10" wingspan, really good shot from mid-range and from three. Kind of reminds you of Chris Middleton a little on offense.
Ooh, I like that. I was trying to think of a comp because he's... All right, keep going. I like that.
But I think he's going to be gone well before 21. But he projects to be a really, really kind of prototypical two-guard, I think.
So when I watched his tape, my number one takeaway was, I kind of wish I watched Ohio State this year. Because you got him and Liddell, and you know what they both are?
Throwback players.
Old school, baby. I
Liddell
love Malaki
sure.
Brandon. So you have to understand something about, like, sometimes people are like, wow, Joe Johnson. You know, somebody the other day was like, I forgot you're a Joe Johnson guy. I love the technical part of basketball, the skill guy. Malaki Brandon is one of those guys. His shot is the 10-footer. It's not even the mid-range. Mid-range implies the KD 15 to 20 feet or whatever. His is really like DeMar DeRozan-esque in that he gets down to that like 10-foot range, which is and it's still a jumper, and he just has incredible touch on those. I don't know if the Nuggets need that. I don't know if it translates, but watching his tape, I was like, oh yeah, love this dude.
Yeah, he's legit. Like, one and done, averaged 14 points a game last year, 3.5 rebounds, 2 assists, 50% from the field, 40% from three, 83% from the line.
No.
He's just a really, really good player. Really, really good prospect as a two-guard. He's been mostly getting mocked in the late lottery.
Right.
I don't see him getting the 21. If the Nuggets took him at 21, it would just be best player on the board.
What do we know about his wingspan?
6'10".
6'10". So I'm curious about projecting defense, at the next level, versatility and all that.
I think he's more of an offensive player right now.
But
he should be a good defender,
I think he's a good defender, but not like a shutdown, but like a solid guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's definitely more of an offensive player. The thing that made me curious is, who is he for? Because he plays kind of like a number one option or a sixth man option. Like, he just plays as a guy that's looking for his shot first and maybe second. Not in a selfish way, because I think he's a pretty efficient player, but just as in, like, that's what he's best at. But I don't think he's good enough to be, like, you're not projecting him to be a cornerstone piece or anything like that.
Can he be Klay Thompson?
That would take some tweaking to his game.
That's probably his ceiling.
He's got a Klay.
How big of a role could he have on a good team? Like, that'd be the ceiling.
I like that because you know how Klay, one of his underrated traits is the 10-footers. Like, Klay Thompson, that's a 10-footer's kind of a tough shot.
Yep.
People are more, because a mid-range is you're usually open to some extent or you're in rhythm. The 10-footer is almost like a contested 10-footer, and Klay is good at those, right? He just has such soft touch. And honestly, Malaki, he's one of my favorite play. He's kind of in the Jalen Williams pile for me, although I think Jalen Williams is a better fit. But he's in the pile of, like, guys I absolutely love. I just don't think Denver has a use for. But I love him. I'm like, it's a fun player to watch.
He's the type of guy where you could slot him in on any team almost, I feel like, and he'd be legit.
And obviously, you're just hoping he would even fall to begin with. But I think I really have swung back to best player available. I mean, that dichotomy, it depends on who is available, right? If, like, there's an approximate wing, maybe you go that way. But it just does the most realistic path to finding a player that significantly moves your needle next year is probably trading one of, if not two of these picks.
Right.
So if using the other one on best player available, totally fine with it. Even if it's, I've changed my mind, honestly. Even if it's not a great fit, it's another bullet in the trade asset chamber,
right.
And so I don't know. I think there's a reason why so many GMs just say best player available no matter what. And maybe Denver is still in that position.
So you would come to Middleton. He's just a lot shorter, I think, than Middleton. Middleton, like 6'6", 6'7". I mean, he's
a tiny bit shorter.
And that makes a huge difference, right? Part of what makes Middleton so great is he's, got the length there on both ends of the court. But I do like the comp. Like, stylistically, they do have a lot of
coming around those screens, one dribble straight into a jumper.
And it's like they take the one dribble not to get wide open, but to get just open enough that they can, like, fall away or get to their spot. And he has the, like, high release up here so you can't block it. It's interesting. So you've got that. I'll call it DeMar DeRozan. Maybe I'll just do that because the height works. And then you had EJ Liddell, who's like Paul Millsap. That's such an old school team, man. I love it. Well, I kind of want to go back and watch Ohio State.
Liddell really is. He's the biggest throwback I've seen in a while.
Yeah, Liddell's been dropping on my board. Yeah, it's dropping like a rock, unfortunately.
If he did magic on TikTok, would he go up on your board?
Jeez. I would be pretty shocked if the Nuggets drafted Malika Brandon, no matter if they traded up or if he fell. It would be pretty surprising.
Even if he fell to 21.
So if you had the chance there between like the Dalen Terrys and the Moores and the Beauchamps, and then also him, again, the other guys theoretically fill a need, the defensive need. This guy doesn't necessarily. You still think because he's the better player you would take him?
I think so. I think he's by far the better player. I mean, he's a lottery guy.
Right.
Those guys definitely aren't.
Right on the cusp. All right, let's take a break. I still would be surprised if the Nuggets had him. I don't think he'll be available, so it's probably a moot point. And I don't think he's the type of guy Denver would trade assets to move up to grab. Although, you never know.
I don't think so either.
He's on our list. Let's take a break. On the other side, a guy who actually, if I were handicapping who the Nuggets take, this guy would actually be very high.
Ooh.
Very high on the guy I think they are going to take or would consider taking. We'll get to him next.
Evoca TV, guys, if you're not on board with Evoca TV, you're late. What are you doing? Check out evoca.tv/DNVR. That's where you can go to get Evoca TV for just $15 a month for those first 3 months. When you use the promo code DNVR, you get $10 off your first 3 months. That comes out to $15 a month for those first 3 months, plus a receiver, no contracts, no hidden fees with Evoca TV, of course. They've got Altitude, they got AT&T Sportsnet, they've got DNVR. Yes, we have a channel on there. Altitude Sports, AT&T Sportsnet. You can watch the Nuggets, you can watch the Avs, you can watch the Rockies, you can watch us. Evoca TV is a great option. They got other national channels as well. So go to evoca.tv/DNVR to get set up with them. Use the promo code DNVR. Get $10 off your first 3 months at Evoca TV. Athletic Greens. It's a product that I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because I wanted more energy just in my daily life. I wanted to optimize my immune system. I also hated taking pills and vitamins. I just wanted a one-stop shop to set me on with my day and put me in a good place. Athletic Greens is exactly that. What is exactly in Athletic Greens? One delicious scoop of Athletic Greens. You're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. It's also lifestyle friendly. Athletic Greens is, so if you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, Athletic Greens lines up with all those diets. So right now, guys, it's time to reclaim your health. Arm your immune system with a convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every single day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D, 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/nuggets, athleticgreens.com/nuggets to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
We back? Mm-hmm. We back. All right, segment 2. A guy that's been on the list now that I've been very intrigued by, but I hadn't gotten into the film until last night, start diving into it. Kind of sold on it. Wendell Moore out of Duke. What do you want to tell me about him, Harrison?
Number 5 on my board, Wendell Moore. He just does everything well. 6'5.5", 7-foot wingspan, 38.5-inch vert. Really nice measurables for a 2-guard, which is kind of what he is. I see him more of as a 2-3, not as a 1. But last year at Duke, 13.4 points per game, shot 50% from the field, 41.3% from 3 on 3 attempts per game. That's a pretty decent sample size for college, 80% from the line. Like I mentioned, he was one of the 20 players in that 50-40-80 club in college last season that played over 1,000 minutes. Jalen Williams was also in that club, might I add.
I like that.
But Wendell Moore is just, he's an efficient role player who it looks like knows his skill set, knows what he's good at. He's a good shooter. He can drive. He can hit the pull-up. And he's also a really capable defender as well. Can defend on the perimeter, can defend off-ball, has some switchability as well. He's just really well-rounded. And if I'm the Nuggets and I'm looking for a role player, like Wendell Moore played a role at Duke on a really good team, played his part. And I feel like he's going to come into the NBA and do the exact same thing. I'm a fan.
I mean, a lot of people, I think, are eager to find contained, capable players on the offensive end right now. Players who know what this team can do and what the best way to help them win is. And this is another prospect who obviously strikes me as a guy who has that self-awareness and a guy who's probably not trying to change much about himself, to your point, heading to the next level. Probably doesn't view himself as anyone's top option. So a late first, a guy who's going to come in and be willing to do some of the hard work, the dirty work, I think he's a really good option, particularly as you look at that second pick in the 30 range. I mean, if he were available there, you just think that's a perfectly viable pick at that range.
I'm surprised he's mocked as low as he is on a lot of these drafts. Like, as I go through these guys, I know every team has different needs or whatever, and I think you can kind of group, as I in my head do, Dalen Terry, MarJon Beauchamp, and Wendell Moore, because they kind of fit the same mold. They're very similar to me in what they do. They have different pluses and minuses. The gap between those guys is not as wide as Wendell Moore comes in 35th in some mock drafts, like that far back. And I look at him and I go, is he that much different than Beauchamp or Dalen Terry? Dalen Terry, I think, has the advantage in just the body, like his length and athleticism gives him a little bit of a nudge. But 7-foot wingspan, you watch some of the highlights, playing in a good conference in college and guarding a lot on the perimeter as guys bring the ball up the court, and he's right there with a 7-foot wingspan, turning those guys and getting steals out at half court, applying pressure to disrupt the offense from getting into rhythm. And I look at it and I go, that's exactly what Denver needs. They need a guy that's able to guard out there, but then simultaneously has not just the width or the length, but also the strength, unlike a Dalen Terry and maybe even a Beauchamp, who you think we looked at Beauchamp today, loved his build, but he's very thin. Can he guard Kawhi Leonard? Probably not. That's probably a guy that's going to muscle him out. I think that Wendell Moore maybe projects to be a guy a little bit more physically imposing against the bigger guys. So I really like him. He's a guy that I think fits the mold of what Denver is likely looking for. To your point, if they do look at the draft and get into it and they're 21, they see something at trading 21 that they like and they still have 30, he's a guy to me that I think will be available at 30 that I would be perfect. I think I like Dalen Terry a little bit better, Beauchamp a little bit better. But if you talked about 21 versus 30, if you could get at 30, 98% of what you can get at 21, I would feel really good about that.
Yeah. I'm just struggling to see what Wendell Moore does poorly.
Nothing.
He doesn't have maybe the upside that some of the guys taken ahead of him are going to have, but he does everything really well.
Well, you know what the weakness is for all three of these guys? It's kind of interesting. It's creation. And it's funny because it's the one thing Denver doesn't need. It's like, that's okay, doesn't matter.
Right.
These guys on-ball creators. He doesn't have a lot of shake to his game. You're not going to clear out an ISO. It's like perfect.
Yeah.
Don't want him to do that anyway.
Right.
Also, he's not like the top 1% athlete. I don't think he's the athlete Beauchamp is. Definitely isn't the athlete that Dalen Terry is. But he's still a great athlete. Jumped 38 and a half inches at the combine. But I think he's got a high defensive upside. I think he's going to be a really good defender. Offensively, I mentioned he's natural off the ball, but he kind of thinks the game like a point guard. He's effective in the pick and roll as a passer and a playmaker. He also played in a lot of NBA-style sets and offenses at Duke. So I think the transition in terms of the reads he makes on offense and defense are going to be, he's going to make that transition pretty easily. So good free throw shooter, great looking jumper, selfless. I don't think he's like a selfish player or anything that's going to try to come into the league and be a star. So I really like him. He just doesn't have the upside that some of these other guys might.
And it's funny that you say the upside because I do feel like, especially at the spot they're picking at, especially if you talk about trading 21. Again, I'm not saying they're going to, but Wendell Moore seems like the pick if you trade 21 and keep 30. It seems like he would be the guy. That's why I say there's a really good chance that he's the guy, just because I feel like it could work out there. Are you drafting for upside? If you're the Nuggets, again, shot creation, upside, those are two things that matter more if you're other teams than they do for Denver.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking back to last year's draft, and there were a lot of guys we liked, like a Quentin Grimes.
Right.
And then they draft Bones Highland, and you're like, okay, this guy's good, and he's got some great upside to him as well.
That was an upside pick,
Yeah.
And now you're also, again, I prefer that they don't, but now you're also looking at him as a guy who, even if he doesn't fit Denver's timeline like a glove on a hand, maybe he helps them get someone who does, talking about Bones. I really think that equation changes drastically from 21 to 30. Like at 21, I think there might be more guys left with the upside that's worth that flyer, right? As opposed to you get down to 30 and it's, okay, let's just try to draft smart here and avoid mistakes. But I love the idea of this guy at 30. I just think he's the contained, self-aware part of it is really appealing.
And he's the part we didn't talk about, because all of these things we're talking about, good feel for the game. To speak in generalities, George Karl would hate me for saying this. He seems like a classic Duke guy to me in that I do feel like he is almost naturally bought into being a role player, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, he seems comfortable with it, but I think he also has the mind for it. Like, he is a very good cutter. I actually think playing in Denver specifically would bring out some of the better traits of him, because he is such a willing, low-usage guy that fills the gaps very, very nicely. Definitely. And so you would see a lot of that, and then you wouldn't see the, like, oh, he caught the ball with 8 seconds left and he didn't do anything cool with it, because we never would see that. It would just be great. So I'm not going to lie. When we put out our list today, Wendell Moore is very high for me, and if you talk about missing out on the first wave of guys at 21, I think he's my number one guy for 30.
Yeah, you speak to that role player mentality. He was a very high recruit coming into Duke, as a lot of guys who come into Duke are, but didn't really do a whole lot his freshman year, came off the bench for a lot of it, started to start games his sophomore year, and then his junior year really came onto the scene, but he just steadily improved every single part of his game in college as well. You just kind of love to see that linear improvement. Was always a great free throw shooter in college, shot 80% from the line every single year. All 3 years he shot over 80% from the line, so that makes you really confident in his jumper.
That's a good point.
And then goes from 21 to 30 to 41% on his three-pointer this last season. So
10% jumps every year.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a worker. Sounds like a worker.
That's a good point.
And knowing where your shots come from is part of that efficiency. But I just like him. I actually think he's a shooter. I don't think he's like a knockdown shooter, but I think he is good enough that you don't say we're leaving him wide open. And that's kind of what you need in that role, especially if he could be defensive. It's funny, a lot of these guys we talk about, I think maybe this is actually it's twisting my brain and I should stop thinking it, but a lot of these guys I keep thinking like, oh, he kind of reminds me of Gary Harris. Now this is like a Gary Harris with a 7-foot wingspan. He's probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches taller than Gary Harris. So you're talking about a longer guy, but he does have a lot of the early Gary Harris traits. Can he knock down an open three-pointer? Absolutely. Is he a good cutter? Is he a good finisher? This is one of the things we didn't talk about. Very good finisher, and not just on like power dunks or what have you, but he's good, like good touch, off the backboard or floater or whatever. So to me, I think he I don't know. I just think he actually projects to be a really interesting player. And the one knock I saw some places on him was he's really locked in most of the time, but sometimes it like maybe he's too much of a two-way player and it saps everything. And I kind of look at that and go, if he comes to Denver, 100% energy on defense, 80% energy on offense, perfect mix-up.
So what, the knock is he cares too much about defense?
No. That maybe he was tasked with too much offense at Duke. He could be locked in on defense, and then there'd be times where it looked like he ran out of gas.
No, yeah.
I don't think that'd be a problem going forward.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Last thing, we've been asking this of most of these guys. What would Jokic think of him?
He'd like him. Smart, high IQ player.
Yeah.
Good cutter. Doesn't try to do too much. Makes the right play. That's the number one thing that pisses Nikola Jokic off more than anything. Yeah. Guys that don't make the right basketball play or the play they should make, does that.
One other thing that showed up in the Adam Spinella videos, by the way, that I loved, and it's actually the most underrated thing. I can't believe we didn't bring it up. Really good extra pass maker. So Jokic drives, kicks to the corner, swing one pass away, or kick to the corner, swing to the wing, swing across. He's really good at that, meaning he kind of sees the play, so when it comes to him, he knows I'm shooting or I'm swinging, and there's no break in that. There's no catch, shoot, no pass. And it sounds like it's a simple thing. I think Jokic would love that. If I were Calvin Booth and they draft this guy and Jokic says, send me the tape, that's one of the lines I would send back of like, watch the extra passes he makes. Really good at that.
Yeah, I mean, Jokic likes right time, right place, right time, guys.
Yeah.
And he strikes me as one for sure. I also think the beautiful thing about Jokic is he is not really thinking or overthinking any of this until the second he meets them and starts playing basketball with them, and we'll find out.
When do you think? What pick do you think started making Jokic reach out and say, "Send me the tape"? What one was it? Michael Porter, maybe?
Tyler Lydon.
No way, no way. I don't think he was locked in yet.
He saw the tape for the first time, and he's like, "Shit, I need to start checking these guys out."
Start kidding here. You drafted who?
They might need my help.
Wendell Moore. Allie, what's the chat saying? Are the people liking Wendell Moore? Or are they moving on to other things? Okay. Then we'll move on to other things. On the other side of this, we're going to talk about. I'm not going to lie. I don't want to ruin it. Kind of that kind of lukewarm on.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow, what a pitch.
What a tease. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.
Oh, man. The American Raptors guys play at Infinity Park. They ended their first season at 5-5. Pretty good for a group of former athletes coming together for the first time and putting their skills to the test. If you don't know about the American Raptors, they're Rugby Town USA's newest rugby team. They are made up of athletes who have competed at the highest levels of their respective sports. So these are football players, basketball players, baseball players. All these guys have come together to make this American Raptors rugby team. They play at Infinity Park. Check out a game. The games are free to go to. You just have to get a ticket at AmericanRaptors.com. So check them out if you're looking for something to do on the weekends. American Raptors, they play at Infinity Park. Get your tickets at AmericanRaptors.com. At DraftKings Sportsbook right now, what do we got going on? The NBA Finals are over. We got the Stanley Cup Finals going on. Hockey fans, the final chase for the Stanley Cup is here. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the Stanley Cup Final, has a can't-miss offer for the most exciting series in sports. New customers can bet $5 on either team to win their game. Get $100 in free bets no matter what, win or lose. So if you're looking to turn a small bet into a big payday, check out DraftKings Same Game Parlays. If you're a new customer, sign up for this offer. Bet just $5 on either team to win their game. Get $100 in free bets, win or lose. Make sure to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DNVR. New customers can bet $5 on either NHL team to win their game. Get $100 in free bets no matter what. That's code DNVR at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the Stanley Cup Final. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. Stanley Cup Final or NBA Finals? Which sport is doing it right? Stanley Cup Final, singular. Finals, plural. Which is the correct one?
Here's the thing. It's a series, so I think it's finals. If it was a tournament and it's the final.
I just love when you say tournament.
Tournament.
It's my favorite word of anything anybody says on the show.
I don't know. I'm torn.
The Stanley Cup finale. We need that one. Maybe it's the World Series finale.
Yeah. If it was like the Larry O'Brien final, that'd sound better.
I'm not going to lie. Maybe it's probably because we come from basketball. It's just the finals is a thing, whereas
more
the final,
glamorous.
Final sounds...
The finals.
Yeah. Whatever. Man, I just was looking at the schedule as you were talking here. So this is a little behind the scenes. Nobody really cares about this, but I just want to bring it up to you guys.
Perfect.
They told us the schedule that it starts on Thursday this year. So like every time
for what?
For Summer League.
Okay.
And so like when we're booking all travel and everything else, like we got to get there Thursday. There's 2 games Thursday. It actually starts on Friday, and they just never clarify that till now. So everybody's going to fly out on Thursday for no games.
Good thing there's nothing to do in Vegas.
But yeah, exactly.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Make it work.
But good news, we got so freaking lucky that since it really starts on Friday, Phoenix, Chicago, and Denver all play on Friday as opposed to Saturday, Monday. So no harm, no foul.
The Tim Connolly Bowl.
The Tim
Nuggets
Connolly
Timberwolves,
right
July 8th,
8th,
7 p.m.
Woo, boy. I'm telling you.
Tensions might be boiling over.
It's that time of year. I'm telling you, like, where you actually get it. I'm, like, excited for Summer League. It lasts all the way up until the first game.
This is going to be the pick that Tim Connolly steals from the Nuggets because they're drafting 2 spots ahead of Denver, going up against Wendell Moore Jr.
Who wins our attention at the Cosmo? Calvin or Tim? Bidding war starts now.
It's going to be a competition, man. You know they're going to be battling for the rights to DNVR.
Wine and dine.
Who's
DNVR.
getting drunk with us?
Yeah. Like I like Javier's and the Cosmo. Like I'm down for an enchilada and a margarita there. Just saying.
You know Vegas a little too well.
Yeah, dude, you're dropping
A little.
locations.
It's not good to know the Vegas.
Javier's? Anyone? No?
He's a sneaky Vegas guy, Wind. For sure.
Wind is very
Yeah.
sneaky Vegas guy. All right, final guy prospect for today. Again, a reminder that Thursday is our live draft show. Everything starts at 4:45. We put an awful lot into this. It's going to be incredible. So you're going to want to set your watches, set your calendars. Thursday, 4:45, and then pack a snack, pack some drinks. You're going to want to be settled in. We're going to be live for like 5 hours. It's going to be great.
People are already lining up for the bar.
Oh my God,
For
this
the
is
Avs
insane!
game?
Like, well, I mean, this is the. Oh my God, so
It's
we
2:16.
don't open today at the bar. This is how cool it is. And if you guys know, whenever that was behind the scenes thing.
Oh.
When the Nuggets are in the NBA Finals, we have an insight now into what the bar will look like, because the Avs have been like ridiculous. It's been packed. The energy's been unbelievable.
Yeah.
We don't open for 45 minutes, and there's a line of people out the door right now in 90
When is
degree
the
heat.
game?
If the game's at 6.
Okay,
game is at
that's
6.
4
the
hours
real
early.
news here.
4 hours early, and the bar already has a line outside in the heat. How crazy is that? It's awesome.
heat.
All right, last guy we have on here, Christian Braun.
I'm a little more excited about Christian Braun than
Talk me-
Adam is here.
Talk me into him.
So Christian Braun, 6'7". He's got a negative wingspan though. That's a big note there.
You know how I am.
Adam's
man.
out.
I know I'm out.
Adam's out.
This
There's
is
only
also why
one
you were
Bane
out on
train.
Desmond Bane.
Yeah, I can't get on the Bane train.
6'6.5" wingspan, 6'7" in shoes. But he's an athlete though.
I
He's
love
got
that we're like, he's a
38.5 inch
T-Rex.
vert. He's a T-Rex.
He's
He
a
is-
T-Rex.
he
Look
is
at how he's
very
grabbing the
dinosaur
ball in
looking.
here.
Yeah, like you can just see the short arms in that photo. He is out of Kansas.
Looks like Leonardo
a
DiCaprio
junior,
in this photo.
14.1 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, a champion, a winner. Just came off an NCAA championship at Kansas.
Means something to me. Don't,
Played
don't-
34.5 minutes per game. Played the most total minutes on a very good Kansas team last year. Played more total minutes than Ochai Agbaji. So he played a big role at Kansas. Shot 38.6% from three. Good shooter both from three. Pretty good shooter from the line. I think he's kind of similar to Wendell Moore in some ways. I've got Wendell Moore ranked ahead of him on my board. I've got Christian Braun
It's
at
the chat's telling us
6?
Brown. It's Brown. So
Brown.
we can go ahead and give the
Yeah.
Brown
okay.
pronunciation.
I knew that. I just you got in my head earlier when you said Braun.
My bad.
But Christian Braun, I think he does a lot of the same things as Wendell Moore in terms of projecting as a role player who can shoot it, who's a high IQ guy, who's a good athlete, and he's also a good defender as well.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a role player end of the first round, I think Christian Braun's going to get scooped up by a Golden State Warriors, a Milwaukee Bucks. Like he projects as a plug-and-play guy, kind of in the mold of Grayson Allen on a good team.
Which, one thing I picked up on, obviously everyone got a decent look at this guy in the tournament, and there you go, Adam, tournament.
There it is.
One thing about him we all can sort of picked up on from our couches, he's a fiery player.
Was you saying? Wait, does he have that dog in him?
He's got that dog.
he's got that
dog in him. But the Nuggets don't have a ton of, guys who will hit
Dogs?
a shot and just curse into the front row like he did in that championship
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
I don't know what that means. I just find
Yeah.
that interesting. There are so many sort of understated types of players and personalities that have come through Denver. This strikes me as a high energy young fella.
Yeah. All these things are true. Like, he does play with a lot of energy. One thing you guys didn't say that I like, because he is a good defender, even though he doesn't quite have the length, which, by the way, I think when you watch some of the cons, like the scouting videos, some of the cons, the ability to contest, like, there were some times where he played great defense, and then he jumps out to, and the guy just shoots over him. And I think at the NBA level, that would become more pronounced. One of the guys I was thinking about was, like, a Devin Booker, because they would show him in the post sometimes. Like, a Devin Booker, 6'5", he can do the turnaround, fall away, money at it if you can't contest the shot, if you can't force him away. He's one of those guys that I don't think could. Like, if you ask DeMar DeRozan, if you bring in a guy who's known as a defender, you would want the ability to put him on DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan wouldn't see him. He would just score every time because it would be like, I'm shooting over you. So those are things. But the positive for him, I love defenders that can be both aggressive, blocking shots, getting steals, which he can, without ever jumping like out of control. And he possibly is one of those guys that was very patient. He's never looks like he's trying to get a steal or trying to get a block. Like, guys will give him 8 fakes and he just doesn't bite. He kind of just like waits for it. And I think that's a really underrated trait. It's like, I almost feel like you don't teach that. Some guys just jump. Birdman blocked a lot of shots, jumped at everything. And it's like you couldn't get him to stop doing that. And It worked for him. But this is a guy that I just noticed really is good at being patient, not overreacting to crossovers and everything else. He has good timing.
We were talking about Michael Malone type of players. I think Michael Malone would love Christian Braun.
Oh, this guy's from his neighborhood.
Because he competes defensively, too.
Yeah.
He's got a good motor. He's a dog.
That's
and
right.
he just gets down in the stance and defends.
Does he slap the floor?
I could see him slap.
I could see him slapping the floor.
I
for
guarantee you he's slapped the floor at least once in his career.
I also, and I don't, this is anecdotal, just watching those games. He stood out to me as an athlete and in transition.
He's a sneaky athlete. Some would
yeah,
say.
some might say he's a sneaky, but actually he wasn't sneaky to me. He's
an
noticeably
athlete.
athletic.
Well, that's why
He's
it's
an
funny. I
athlete.
mean, honestly, let's not kid ourselves. The people he gets clumped to are like Pat Connaughton, Dante DiVincenzo.
My comp is Grayson
Allen. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
It's a good
theme
comp.
here. Yeah, all athletes.
Grayson Allen's a good athlete.
They are all athletes. Dante DiVincenzo is
Yeah.
an incredible athlete.
Connaughton had like a 40-inch vertical, right?
Yeah, Connaughton's an insane
totally.
athlete. And also like a 4-sport All-American somehow.
Shout out Notre
Like,
Dame baseball.
Hilarious. Anyway, but the wingspan thing to me is just so real. I mean, I know we talk about it a lot, but it's a thing for me. Like, if Denver's going to have a defensive identity around Jokic, I really do think it's length, and I just don't think you can have a break in that chain.
I agree. You definitely want a guy with more length. Like, we've talked so much about the Nuggets redoing their identity on the defensive end of the floor, and you do that by adding a lot of defenders around Jokic that,
At least wingspan.
that fit that mold. And we've talked about some of those guys in this draft, like Tari Eason, Dalen Terry. Those guys, even Wendell Moore a little bit.
No, he for a lot of it. 7-foot wingspan.
Yeah, but he's just not like the marquee defender that a Eason.
You don't think? Oh, I disagree. I think
no,
he
I don't.
is.
I don't think he's a
Interesting.
top defender in this draft, which those guys are. If he was, I think he'd be projected to go in the first round. But you want to put those guys around Jokic with that long wingspan that can cover a lot of ground. Braun is a good defender, I think, but I don't know if he totally pivots the dynamic of Denver as a defensive team like those other guys do.
That's an interesting point. If you're leaning into the length thing, like we've talked about, as a way to sort of something that adds up to more than the sum of the parts, that's an interesting point.
And offensively, he has some parts of his game. Like he's another one of these guys that I think understands
the
where he
sneaky
belongs.
athlete thing was a joke.
Yeah, we were
it's
kidding.
it's
not that sneaky.
So he has these parts to his game that are like he kind of knows his role. He doesn't do a lot of crazy stuff. He's a very good off-ball cutter. He's actually a good. I hate his jumper. We just talked about MarJon Beauchamp, and the fluidity of his new look jumper. Brown is a guy whose jumper I think is disgusting.
He's got a Bryn Forbes jumper.
Kind of does have one.
Kind of from the chest.
And the numbers matter more than like what it looks like, but for whatever it's worth, the only reason I think it might matter a little bit more than that is his catch and shoot numbers versus his pull-up numbers, very, very different. And I think some of that has to do similar to a Bones Highland, where there's something mechanically about what they do that makes it harder to go off the bounce that way.
Yeah,
And-
he's definitely a catch and shoot guy.
But when you talk about, okay, if you're going to have a negative wingspan and this or that, like you start to think you need to kind of be, if you are physically at a disadvantage in any area, you have to be able to make up for it. And one of them is I think he does need to be able to attack a closeout with a pump fake, one dribble jumper. And like his mechanically, when he does those, they're really kind of gross looking, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely does not have that smoothness to his game that some
like
of these other guys
feels like
have.
a push.
Push shot a little.
Yeah, he is a guy who's going to live around the three-point arc, just swish, catch, and shoot threes.
Yeah.
That's how he's going to carve out his niche in the NBA.
Yeah.
If you ask him to do much more than that, I don't know how that's going to go.
Right. And, look, it's worth noting, we joked about it, and these are different players. We are fresh off of a what about the wingspan isn't good Desmond Bain scenario. Like, guy could still come in and make up for any of those deficiencies. But I do think maybe Bain was also a little bit more of a well-rounded player. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
I think it's just that shooting is so important, and he was such
and
a
he was
10
such
out
a
of 10 out of
knockdown
that
shooter
it makes up for a lot.
sort of made up
Somebody
for
just
it.
pointed out, and this gives you a sense of not bias, but like where we are keyed in. He's a really good passer, and we didn't even mention it. So like he actually is a good secondary playmaker because he has good vision, including on the move. So when you talk about attacking closeouts, I do have more confidence in his ability to attack a closeout, collapse the defense, keep the ball moving. talked about Wendell Moore being able to make the extra pass. He does that as well at a very high level. So there are things that are really good at it. I do just worry when your shot looks like that, is it easier to read?
Yeah. He's much more than a specialist for sure. Like
Right.
in college, he was a basketball player. He did a little bit of everything. He can pass, shoot, and score. I just feel like we've seen this story a little bit before, and I would bet on him more settling into a role as a specialist in the NBA, more so than like a key guy.
Yeah. Any other notes from today? Any other thoughts? Oh, we should say, was it Travion Williams? Is that who it was that was also here today?
Purdue, yep.
Out of Purdue, also worked out for the Nuggets, also spoke with the media. I walked away very impressed with him. He might win the Admiral Schofield Award for guy who's like a second rounder that most impressed. Same thing, said all the right things, but was very, it was just like an impressive interview. So
I thought he was really impressive. By the way, a lot of guys, clearly their agents have told them to mention Yoke, but he said specifically, one thing I love about him is you cannot speed him up.
Yeah.
And, well, no, I think that's a very key part of Jokic's game. And this is a guy who you may not know it just based off of his build, but is a willing and capable playmaker. And to hear him sort of thinking the game that way and looking up to that specific trait of the back-to-back MVP, I thought that was all very impressive.
And I don't know his game very well. His interview was good enough that I actually was like, hey, I'll go back and look at him. I don't think he's a guy the Nuggets use a draft pick on, but he might be a undrafted type guy. He might be like you get a first for some cash or a second rounder for some cash, late second rounder. Maybe you take a flyer. But I was interested in him. And by the way, when you talk about when he mentions Jokic, there are a lot of guys that will mention them this or that. Talking to somebody on staff afterwards, just kind of, in the hallway type thing, they were like, no, that's real with him. Like, he really has, like, tried to model his game or whatever after Jokic. So it's not just lip service.
Yeah.
It's that he actually has thought this for a while and has developed with that in mind. So
It's a big part of his game. He's a real playmaker.
Whatever it's worth. Doesn't help that he's like 6'8", though. 6'7".
Yeah, that's the only thing. New assistant coach Ryan Saunders was at the workout today. I think me and him shop at the same store for our clothes.
I think you're doing yourself a little. I think you're boosting your own.
Oh, really?
I think he might be at some stores
It might be out of your budget.
Yeah,
the guy's stylish, man.
well,
Aesthetically, though, Wind,
Yeah,
it is
it
your
is-
vibe.
it is your
It very
aesthetic,
much
but I
your
just-
vibe.
just level up. Also in the building tonight, Monte Morris, Mr. Nugget, still around,
Yes.
still Mr. Nugget, as well as none other than Davon Reed.
Free agent Davon Reed.
Mr. Nugget in training, possibly.
He's
Davon
following
Reed.
Monte around so much. Like, what else could it be other than Mr. Nugget in training?
I love
This is just the summer training course.
This is he really is. I love Davon Reed.
Davon Reed just never left the Nuggets.
On a scale
Yeah.
of 1 to 10, how shocked would you be if Davon Reed is not a Nugget
At
by
this
the-
point, extremely.
in 10 days or 11 days or whatever?
10. I'd be stunned.
Me too.
Yeah, dude, me too. He's there every day.
I'll drink a personal keg of Christmas Avalanche or ale if he's not.
Another thing about Davon Reed, we already knew this, but like he really is built. Like we just talked about Beauchamp, and like he looked taller. This that. Like Davon Reed looks the exact same build. Really long arms, 6'6", 6'7", and like I know it's just another piece when we're talking about this, but he's another guy that really could, in theory, solve some of Denver's problems. We'll see if they count on him for that, or if they kind of slot him in the third spot. I don't know, but I don't know. I'm excited about Davon Reed.
I am too. I like him. He's solid. You can rely upon him. You know what he is.
Yeah, assistant to the Mr. Nugget.
By the way,
Not assistant Mr. Nugget. Assistant to the Mr. Nugget.
the Colorado kid Lottie. How do I say his first name again? Is it just Jacek?
I don't know.
He was there again today for a second workout. Heard some good things about him. So just as far as maybe summer league guys,
We screwed up Brown. You think we're gonna get Jason?
I know, man.
Correctly?
Well, that's why I asked. But just as far as potential summer league guys, maybe a name to keep an eye on.
He's got a gorgeous jumper. They did bring him back for a second workout. Do you think they just needed another body, or they want to get another look at him?
I think it might be both. Probably more the first one.
I think.
But no, but I'm just saying he's maybe a summer league guy. Just a name. Just a name to keep an eye on.
Tiny King. That's why you really.
That's it.
He's got a great looking shot, man.
Yeah.
A good athlete too. He was. Hey, there was a very
Good hair.
underwhelming dunk contest today at the end of that.
I disagree. I think it was under. Again, doesn't matter. Beauchamp wasn't so whelming. He was underwhelming. Everybody else, though, there was a couple in there today. I was kind of like,
Lottie got
including
up.
his. His was like incredible. That does it for today, guys. It is draft week. I am energized. Everybody here is energized. Eric, you can't see him, but he's energized. We're going to be back tomorrow and Wednesday with our final scouting reports. Check out Harrison's big board up on thednvr.com. We're going to have a lot of content, including a lot of free content. So if you haven't visited the site in a while, you're going to want to check it out to see all of our draft coverage. And then, of course, Thursday, 4:45, we go all out, pulling out all the stops for our draft show. Should be a lot of fun. Hit that like button on the way out, everybody.